Many years ago, when the sun still rose quietly over the unspoiled hills of a young America, there lived a kind-hearted woman named Clara. She lived alone in a cozy, vine-wrapped cabin, nestled deep in the heart of the Appalachian woods. The forest was thick with trees that whispered ancient secrets to each other, and the soft sounds of wildlife filled the air like music. Wildflowers bloomed in hidden pockets of color, and just beyond the hills, a river sparkled like silver ribbon in the sun. It was a place alive with old magic, the kind that lingers only where hearts are open enough to see it. Clara had one wish, a dream so deep and pure it pulsed in her chest every morning. She longed for a child. She would wake up with the birds, place her hand on her heart, and whisper her wish out into the world, hoping the forest would hear her. She had no family of her own, but she had love to give, more than enough for any little soul who might come her way. One morning, as the dew clung to the grass, and the first golden light slipped through the branches, Clara sat on the steps of her home, cradling a cup of warm tea made from forest herbs. The scent of pine and moss floated around her. She looked out over the hills, her favorite view, where the forest met the sky like an old friend. The breeze shifted gently, lifting her long dark hair and brushing her cheeks. It felt different today, cooler, crisper. A new kind of energy hummed through the trees. Then it came, a rustling so deep and deliberate it made the birds fall silent. From between two towering oaks stepped a figure taller than the tallest tree, cloaked in leaves, bark, and ivy. His eyes glowed a soft, mossy green. He was the forest guardian, a spirit of the land, ancient and powerful. Clara stood, her heart thumping, not with fear, but awe. She bowed slightly, her voice steady when she spoke. "Good morning, sir," she said softly. "You've heard me, haven't you?" The guardian nodded, his voice like the wind rustling through the trees. "You've wished with a heart so true that the earth itself stirred. I have come to grant your wish, but with a promise." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Anything," she whispered. From within his leafy cloak, the guardian pulled out a single seed, round and gold, glowing faintly like a piece of the sun. He placed it gently in her hand. "Plant this in the soil behind your cabin. Water it, tend it, and love it as you would your own child. On the 12th morning, you will find your wish fulfilled." Clara clutched the seed to her chest, her heart racing with joy. "But," the guardian added, his tone soft but firm, "this child is of magic. You may raise her with love until her 17th birthday. After that, she must return to me, for she has a destiny greater than even you can imagine." Clara nodded, tears of gratitude falling freely now. Thank you so much." She wasted no time. That very morning she found a patch of soil warmed by sunlight, surrounded by protective ferns. She dug a small hole, nestled the golden seed inside, and covered it with care. Every day she watered it, whispered songs to it, and touched it with her hopes. The plant sprouted faster than anything she'd ever seen. First a small sprig, then vines that curled like ribbons, and finally a single, enormous golden gourd. On the 12th morning, as the sky turned a soft pink, the gourd split open with a quiet crack. Clara gasped and fell to her knees. Inside, sleeping peacefully, was a baby girl. Her skin was golden brown like honey, and her tiny fingers curled delicately. Clara wrapped the child in a handmade quilt and held her close, sobbing with joy. She named her Marigold after the flower that always bloomed bravely at the edge of winter. Marigold grew quickly. She was strong, smart, and kind. She could run faster than the deer and climb trees like the squirrels. Her laughter made the birds sing louder, and when she touched the plants, they seemed to grow just a bit greener. Clara taught her everything she knew: how to cook wild herbs, how to mend old clothes, how to listen to the wind and know if a storm was coming. Their days were simple but beautiful. They sang together while picking berries, made up stories at night, and lay in the soft grass watching stars blink awake in the sky. But as Marigold neared her 17th year, the forest grew quieter. The owls hooted more solemnly, and the wind sometimes sighed through the trees, like it was remembering something it didn't want to. Clara began to sleep less, her heart growing heavy with each sunrise. Marigold noticed. One day, while sitting beneath their favorite chestnut tree, she turned to her mother and asked, "What's wrong, Mama? Is something coming?" Clara's eyes welled up. She had hoped to keep the truth away just a little longer. But now it was time. That night, under the warm glow of a lantern, Clara told her daughter the story of the forest guardian, of the seed, the gourd, and the promise. Marigold sat silently, her amber eyes wide but calm. When the story was done, Clara handed her a small pouch. Inside were 3 strange things: a bundle of tiny needles, a handful of dried sunflower seeds, and a glass vial filled with salt. "A wise woman gave these to me," Clara said. "She said you would know what to do with them when the time comes." Marigold didn't cry. Instead, she wrapped her arms around Clara and said, "You gave me love, Mama. That's more than magic." That night, Marigold couldn't sleep. The stars twinkled too brightly, and the breeze whispered her name. She stood silently, looked out across the forest, and felt a gentle pull up toward the highest peak in the distance, Blackbird Hill. It rose out of the forest like an ancient giant, cloaked in mist. She slipped outside, barefoot, the pouch in her hand. The night air kissed her cheeks. Fireflies danced around her like floating candles. With each step, she felt something stir in her, something wild and wonderful. The trail to Blackbird Hill was steep and thick with undergrowth, but Marigold moved like she belonged to it, like the earth wanted her there. Her fingers brushed leaves as she climbed, and the scent of pine filled her lungs. As dawn neared, she reached the top. The view took her breath away. Below her, the forest stretched endlessly, cloaked in fog and soft morning light. She opened the pouch and held the items in her palm. Something about the moment shimmered. Then, just like that first day when Clara made her wish, the wind changed. It wrapped around Marigold like a ribbon, lifting her hair and brushing her eyelashes. The forest guardian was coming, and Marigold, with the whole sky glowing behind her, was ready. Marigold stood tall on Blackbird Hill as the sun stretched its first rays across the treetops. Gold spilled into the valley like warm syrup, and the earth below her glistened with morning dew. In her hand, the pouch of magical items felt heavier somehow, as if they had awakened with the light. Then the wind stilled. From the forest edge far below, the trees began to tremble. Birds burst into flight, and a low rumbling sound, like thunder from beneath the ground, rolled through the hills. Marigold didn't move. She knew this was not a storm. From the tree line stepped a giant figure, taller than the trees, and cloaked in leaves, roots, and shadows. It was the forest guardian, but now his form was darker, more ancient. His footsteps cracked branches and shook the earth. His glowing green eyes locked onto Marigold, and yet they didn't seem unkind. He stopped at the base of the hill and lifted his voice. It was low, deep, and echoed like wind through a canyon. Marigold, daughter of the seed, child of hope, the time has come. Marigold clutched the pouch close. Her heart beat steadily, not with fear, but with something powerful. Resolve. I know, she called down. Her voice was strong, clear. You came for me. The guardian nodded once. You were born of magic. The earth sang when you arrived. You are needed beyond these hills, where magic must be kept alive. Marigold stepped forward, the wind tugging at her dress. And if I don't come with you? The guardian paused. Then the forest may dim. Magic will fade from the rivers, from the roots, but the choice is still yours. Marigold felt a flicker of pain in her chest. She thought of her mother, kind, strong Clara, back in the cabin with tea brewing, unaware of the moment unfolding. Then she remembered the seeds, the needles, the salt. Why would Clara give her these if the path was so simple? There's more to this, isn't there? Marigold said. You don't want to hurt me, but something is coming. The guardian bowed his head. You see well. There is another, a darker spirit born when the land was wounded long ago. It stirs now. I have kept it back, but only just. You must learn to protect what grows, what heals. You are not only magic, you are a guardian in the making. Marigold's fingers closed around the bundle in her hand. Something inside her stirred, the same spark that made flowers bloom when she walked past, that made animals linger near her. I'll come, she said quietly, but on my terms. I won't run from this. The guardian lifted a hand, and from the ground rose a path, a staircase of moss-covered stones, spiraling down the hillside toward him. Marigold stepped onto it, slowly descending. As she neared the bottom, the forest around them quieted again. He extended a long arm, but not to take her. Instead, he offered her a vine-wrapped staff. This will guide you to the place of first power, he said. You will walk the path alone. If you succeed, you will become what I am, a keeper of the wild. Marigold took the staff. The moment her fingers touched it, vines curled gently around her wrist, like a friend taking her hand. She turned once to look back toward the cabin, toward her mother, and then, with a deep breath, she stepped into the forest. The guardian melted into the trees, his form blending with the bark and branches until only silence remained. Marigold's journey had begun. For hours she walked, following the staff's pull. It didn't guide her like a compass. It tugged softly at her steps, leading her not to trails, but through brush and bramble, over creeks and beneath fallen logs. The forest changed as she walked. The trees grew older, thicker, their roots twisting like sleeping dragons. Light dappled through the canopy in shifting patterns. And then, at midday, Marigold came to a place unlike any other. A clearing opened up, full of tall grass and buzzing bees, with a single massive tree in the center, its bark silver white, its branches reaching into the clouds. Around its roots were stones, set in a perfect circle, each carved with strange runes. Marigold stepped into the circle. The ground beneath her tingled. The tree pulsed, gently, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a sharp sound pierced the clearing. A harsh cry, wild and angry. Marigold spun around. From the far edge of the woods came a creature unlike any she'd ever seen. It was shaped like a man, but twisted and lean, made of dark thorns and blackened wood. Its eyes glowed red. It hissed when it saw her. "The child of light," it snarled, "the seed of hope. I will snuff you out like a candle." Marigold backed toward the tree, her mind racing. She reached into her pouch and felt the 3 items. Instinct surged through her. She flung the needles into the grass before her. Where they struck, sharp green shoots of bamboo erupted from the earth, forming a spiked wall. The creature crashed into it with a howl. She scattered the sunflower seeds next. They hit the ground and instantly grew into bright golden blooms, sunlight pouring from their centers like flames. The creature hissed again, shielding its eyes. And finally, when it began to climb over the bamboo, Marigold opened the vial of salt. With a wide arc of her hand, she flung it into the air. The salt didn't just fall. It floated, glowing, and as it touched the air, it turned to shimmering mist. The creature shrieked. It stumbled back, the mist clinging to it like webs of light. With one final cry, it vanished into smoke. Silence. The forest exhaled. Marigold dropped to her knees, breathing hard. The tree behind her glowed softly now, like it was smiling. The vines from her staff untwined and gently wrapped around the base of the tree. A voice echoed through the clearing, not spoken aloud but inside her. "You have chosen to stand. You have chosen to protect. You are one of us now." Marigold closed her eyes. Her hands touched the earth, and she felt it, beneath the dirt, beneath the roots, a great warmth. The magic of the land was alive. She rose to her feet. Her journey was far from over, but she had passed the first test. Somewhere, far away, the forest guardian smiled. And deep in the hills, Clara looked up from her tea, heart suddenly light. She didn't know why, but she knew her daughter was safe. The forest had changed. As Marigold walked beneath the great silver-barked tree, she noticed it wasn't just the trees and leaves that seemed more alive, but her. The earth felt different beneath her feet, like it pulsed softly with her steps. Her staff, no longer just a guide, glowed faintly at its tip, alive with power. She could feel it whispering, not in words, but in urges. "This way. Watch here. Wait." She had passed the first test, and now the forest had truly accepted her. After resting for a night, curled in the roots of the great tree, cradled by moss and stars, Marigold rose with the dawn and continued west. Her destination was unknown, but her feet were sure. She followed the pull of something older than maps, something inside her bones. She crossed a ridge and came upon a narrow canyon where the rocks rose on either side like stone giants. A river ran through it, clear and fast, with the foam bubbling around dark stones. As she stepped toward the water to drink, a flicker of gold caught her eye. A creature, a fox, but not like any she had ever seen. Its fur shimmered like sunlit wheat, and its eyes were bright with intelligence. It stood on a rock in the middle of the stream and stared at her. "Child of the seed," the fox said, its voice soft and melodic. "Do you seek the circle of wind?" Marigold blinked. She hadn't known that name. "I don't know what I seek, only that I must keep going." The fox bowed its head slightly. "Then you are already on the right path. But the next trial will not be one of magic. It will be of trust." It turned and leapt lightly across the river to the far side. Then it glanced back. "Follow me." Without question, Marigold crossed, leaping from stone to stone, her staff helping her balance. The moment she stepped onto the far bank, the world shifted. The air thickened. The light grew dimmer, even though the sun was still high. They had entered the realm of wind. The trees were smaller here, and they moved constantly, even without a breeze. Their leaves shimmered and sang, and high above the clouds spun in spirals. The fox led her through silent valleys and across narrow bridges formed from woven vines. No path stayed the same. One moment they walked on pine needles. The next, they were stepping on glassy stone. At last, they came to a vast meadow, perfectly round, ringed with ancient trees twisted by wind. The grass inside was silver. In the center stood a tall stone arch, broken in 3 places. "This is the circle of wind," the fox said. "To pass, you must repair it, but not with your hands, only with your heart." Marigold frowned. "What does that mean?" The fox did not answer. It simply vanished. She approached the arch slowly. It was beautiful, carved with patterns that seemed to move if she stared too long. The 3 broken pieces of the top lay nearby, heavy as small boulders. She tried to lift one. It didn't budge. She sat, breathing hard. Then she remembered something. "Not with your hands." So she closed her eyes and listened. At first there was nothing but her own heartbeat. Then, a hum. It came from the stones, soft and low, like they were remembering something. She reached out with her mind, the way she sometimes did with animals, with plants, and she whispered, "Come home." The first piece trembled. It rose just slightly and floated to the top of the arch. Marigold gasped. She whispered again, her voice full of warmth, "We need you." The second piece followed. With the last, she placed her palm on the stone surface and said, "I believe in you." The third stone rose slowly, shaking slightly, then clicked into place. The moment it did, a wind burst through the circle, spiraling around her, lifting her hair and filling her lungs. But it wasn't just wind. It was memory. Visions spun around her like leaves in a storm. She saw the forest guardian standing beneath the stars, watching a village burn from some ancient battle. She saw the twisted creature from the clearing, born from ash and sorrow, hiding deep in the mountains. She saw her mother, young, afraid, and planting the golden seed, singing to it under her breath. And she saw herself, shimmering, rising, surrounded by animals and trees, her hands glowing with light. Then the visions faded. The wind calmed. She stood now in a completed circle, and when she looked down, she realized the silver grass had grown around her feet, curling like vines, holding her gently, welcoming her. Suddenly she heard footsteps, real ones. From the edge of the meadow came a girl about her age, short with curly hair and freckled skin. Her clothes were made of stitched leaves and bark, and she carried a bow of carved ash wood. "Another guardian?" Marigold asked. The girl smiled. "Not yet, but close. My name is Elowin. The wind told me you were coming." They sat together in the meadow that night. Elowin told her that she, too, had been born of something magical, an apple that had fallen from a tree planted by a storm. Together they watched fireflies rise from the grass, and Marigold felt something she hadn't known she needed. Friendship. It wrapped around her like a blanket. Before dawn, Elowin gave her a gift, a feathered charm to tie to her staff. "For guidance," she said, "when you lose your way." Marigold hugged her. "I'll see you again, won't I?" Without a doubt. When Marigold set off again, she felt different, stronger. She had faced wind and memory, and now something inside her had shifted. She wasn't just following magic now. She was part of it. And far away, deep in a cave that hadn't seen sunlight in centuries, the dark spirit stirred. Its red eyes blinked open. She grows, it hissed, but so do I. And somewhere in the forest, the guardian felt the cold wind and knew the final trial was coming. The morning light filtered through the canopy in streaks of honey gold as Marigold walked deeper into the forest. The air had changed again, no longer filled with wind or whispers, but thick, heavy, and warm, like the breath of the earth itself. She followed no path now. Her feet knew where to go, and her staff, adorned now with Eloan's feather, glowed faintly, pulsing in her hand with every step. She moved into a valley she had never seen on any map, even the old hand-drawn ones Clara kept rolled up on the kitchen shelf. Trees here were older, taller, and their bark was gnarled and rough like the skin of ancient giants. Vines hung in great curtains. The ground was soft with moss, and the air was so still it felt sacred. The Valley of Roots. Marigold stopped at a wide clearing where a massive tree stood alone. Its trunk was thicker than a house, and its roots spread in all directions. Some arched like bridges, others curling into the soil like coiled snakes. It was the heart tree, though she didn't know how she knew. She just did. At its base was a pool of clear water, perfectly still, reflecting the tree's image as though holding a memory. Marigold knelt beside it and peered into the pool, but she didn't see her face. She saw Clara. Her mother stood in their little cabin, folding a quilt. Her hands paused. Her eyes turned to the open door. She was waiting, Marigold realized, waiting for her to come home. Marigold felt tears sting her eyes. The forest had given her a purpose, but she missed Clara more than anything. Suddenly, the image rippled. Clara vanished, and the reflection changed. It showed the cave again, the one from her vision in the circle of wind. Only this time the darkness inside it pulsed like a heartbeat. A shape moved within it, and then eyes, red and cruel. The dark spirit was awakening. A whisper rose from the tree behind her. You must go to the place where magic was broken. Marigold turned. A woman stood among the roots. She was made of wood and light, with bark for skin and leaves for hair. Her eyes were deep wells of green, a forest spirit. You're not the guardian, Marigold said. No, the woman replied, her voice like rustling branches. I am of the roots. I tend the memories of the forest. The guardian brought you into this world, but only you can choose to face the broken place. Marigold rose to her feet, heart thudding. Tell me where it is. The spirit shook her head. It is not a place you find. It is a place you open. And first, you must return home. Marigold blinked. Home. The cabin. Clara. You carry love, but you have not yet completed it. Until then, you are only half what you must become. The forest rustled gently, like it agreed. Without another word, Marigold turned and began her journey back. She passed through the places she had come. The circle of wind, the canyon river, the mossy bridges. She moved fast now, driven not just by duty, but love. After a day and night of walking, she emerged from the woods into the clearing she had once called home. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and on the porch wrapped in a shawl sat Clara, older, a little smaller than Marigold remembered, but unmistakably her mother. Clara looked up, their eyes met, and then they ran. The hug was fierce and wordless. Marigold buried her face in Clara's neck. They sank to the porch and held each other for a long time. "I knew," Clara whispered. "I knew you'd come back. I felt it in my bones." Marigold smiled through tears. "You always said that's where truth lives." They sat inside that night, sipping wildflower tea, while Marigold told her everything about the guardian, the silver tree, Alawan, the wind, and the darkness. Clara listened with wide eyes and nodded softly. When Marigold had finished, Clara stood and opened a cupboard. From it, she pulled a bundle wrapped in faded cloth. "I've been keeping this for you," she said, "for when the time came." Inside were 3 objects: a moon-shaped pendant, a small stone that shimmered like water, and a scrap of parchment with an old forest symbol burned into it. "This was from the woman who gave me the salt and the seeds. She said you'd need them when you reached your final test." Marigold took the items in trembling hands. "Do you know what they do?" Clara shook her head. "Only that they are old, older than this forest. They'll know when the time is right." That night, Marigold didn't sleep. She sat outside, watching the stars blink awake above the trees. And then, far away, just on the edge of the world, she saw it. A crack of light in the ground, like a scar splitting open. The broken place had awoken. The next morning, Clara packed her food and filled the canteen. She laced Marigold's boots just as she had when Marigold was small, and kissed her forehead. "You're not just part of the forest," she said, her voice thick with pride. "You are the forest, and you were born to fix what was lost." Marigold set out again, the sky now overcast, heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. She didn't need the staff to guide her. The pull in her chest was strong, direct. She followed it across rivers, over ridges, and into a part of the woods where the trees grew twisted and blackened. Here, nothing sang. The birds were silent. The air was dry and sharp. She found the cave. Its mouth yawned wide, jagged as broken teeth, and from within came a slow, pulsing sound, like a drumbeat or a heart struggling to wake. Marigold stood at the entrance. She touched the moon pendant. It glowed softly, casting a pale light on the walls. Then she stepped inside. The cave swallowed her.